Hey everybody, today we've got another presidential political shift. This time it's going to be 1956 to 1964, and this one was suggested to me in the comments a while back. It's probably not going to get a lot of views, but I said I would do this video once I finished going back through all the other elections since, so that's what this video is about. If you want to just skip ahead to the map, there will be a chapter down below in the description, and I suspect this was requested because there are some major shifts in only an 8-year span. So first, let's put up the background about these two elections. 1956 was Dwight Eisenhower winning re-election by a landslide. He got 457 electoral votes, carried 41 states, good enough for over 57% of the popular vote. The Democrat was Adlai Stevenson. He only got 73 electoral votes, carried 7 states, and that was worth 42% of the popular vote. Now if we jump ahead just 2 elections to 1964, this time Lyndon Johnson won by a landslide. He got 486 electoral votes. He carried 44 states plus DC, and that was about 61% of the popular vote. The Republican was Barry Goldwater. He got only 52 electoral votes and carried 6 states, and that was good enough for 38.5% of the popular vote. So if we jump back over here to the spreadsheet, we've got the states in the first column, then the 1956 Adlai Stevenson vote, the 1956 Eisenhower vote, then we've got the 1964 Johnson vote, followed by the 64 Republican vote, then we've got the Democratic shifts between those 2 elections, followed by the Republican shifts, and the last column is the net change between the 2 parties between the 2 elections. And one last thing to mention, I took the data from Wikipedia just to make it simple. During this time, there's a little bit of confusion with some of the southern states. For example, in Alabama in 1964, the Democratic electors were unpledged, but to make it simple, we're going to say that vote goes to Lyndon Johnson. So there are some unusual circumstances, but let's get started. In Alabama, 1956, Adlai Stevenson got 56.5% of the popular vote. Dwight Eisenhower, he got 39.4. Jump ahead 8 years, Lyndon Johnson got 30.6. Barry Goldwater got 69.5. That's a net loss of 25.9 for the Democrats, a net gain of 30.1 for the Republicans, and that's a total net shift of 56% away from the Democrats and toward the Republicans. So that's how this works. Let's quickly go through the rest of these states. Alaska and Hawaii were not states in 1956. There's no shifts there, so we can leave them out. The next state is Arizona. That was Barry Goldwater's home state in 1964, but that state shifted 21 points toward the Democrats. Arkansas, that's another southern state, but it shifted a much more modest 6% toward the Democrats. California moved 29.4 toward the left. Colorado, same direction by 42.8. Connecticut by a massive 63.1. Delaware by 32.7. And Florida by 16.9. Georgia moved hard toward Goldwater and the Republicans by 42%. The next bunch of these are all shifts toward the Democrats. First in Idaho by 24.2. Illinois by 38.2. Indiana 32.6. Iowa 42.4. Kansas 40.2. Kentucky 37.4. Louisiana, look at that, almost no change whatsoever, only 0.2% toward the Democrats. Maine had the biggest blue shift out of all the states. Take a look at that, by 79.5%. Another huge shift in Maryland by 51.1. Massachusetts by 71.7. Michigan 45. And Minnesota 35.4. Next in Mississippi, that state had the biggest shift out of all the states, as well as the biggest shift I've done out of all my political shift videos. If you didn't think it could get higher than 100, take a look at that 107.9 shift toward the Republicans. Next, we've got more shifts away from the GOP and toward the Democrats. Missouri 27.9, Montana 32.6, Nebraska 36.2, Nevada 33.1, New Hampshire 60.1, New Jersey 62.2, New Mexico 35, New York 59.8, North Carolina 10.8, North Dakota 39.7, Ohio 48, Oklahoma 21.7, Oregon 38.3, Pennsylvania 43.4, Rhode Island another gigantic one of 78.4. In South Carolina, that state defied the trends. That went a massive 38% toward the Republicans, and the rest of these shifts are all toward the Democrats. First in South Dakota, 28%, Tennessee 11.6, Texas 38.1, Utah 39, Vermont 77, Virginia 24.3, Washington 33.1, West Virginia 44, Wisconsin 48.2, and Wyoming 33.4. And there's your national shift, and even 38% away from the Republicans and toward the Democrats. So those are all the states and all the shifts, and if you have trouble visualizing all these blue shifts, we could take all this data, put it on a map. So let's switch over to that and take a look. Here it is, we've got similar shading. The only difference is Louisiana. That is under a 1% tilt margin. The rest of the shading is the same, and there's not much to say here. This is the biggest shift we've seen. It's only 8 years apart, just 2 elections. A lot of change happening in the country at this time. I bet it was almost unthinkable at the time when Eisenhower won re-election by a landslide in 1956 to think that the Democrats could come back that much and completely wipe out the Republicans with Lyndon Johnson 8 years later. But 8 years is a long time in politics. Sometimes there's a lot of change, especially during that time in the country. I'm sure you can look into individual states, maybe even individual counties, and find more local trends or reasons as to why those trends were happening. There's really no bright spots for the Republicans. They have some southern states, but it's really a drop in the bucket. Most of these blue shifts were colossal, over 30 or 40 points. Some of them even got into the 70s. There's plenty of history you could look up, but whatever Barry Goldwater was selling at the time in 1964, the country had no interest in buying it. He barely even won his home state. But then again, Adlai Stevenson, he ran twice for president, and he didn't even come close either time to winning his home state of Illinois. There's a lot of oddities, a lot of outliers in politics. It's probably going to be a long time before we see another shift of this magnitude between just 8 years, but this is a fascinating shift, and I will leave it there for now. I'm not sure how many more shifts I'm going to get to, but I at least wanted to get this one done. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the shifts in any of these states? What do you think about the candidates in either of these 2 elections? How about the change going on in the country at the time that led to these shifts? Let me know your thoughts down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Join the channel if you'd like to support it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.